Jesus is calling for you. He knows and he can heal you. I know you're hurting deep down inside, but my God, he came to give you life. You think no one cares, so you just sit there. I'm talking to you, get up from there. You gotta believe there's something better. So much better. God put purpose deep inside of you. The whole world is waiting for you. You.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
I can't see, so just connect us. Hey, and welcome to Now We're Talking. I am so excited to be here tonight. It's Thursday, and hopefully you guys are tuning in. If not, come on in. Come on in the room. So come on in and be sure to share. We have an amazing show tonight, which I'm so excited about. As we are connecting, I want to tell you about all the greatness that we're having tonight. So tonight we have Tammy Mark, who is just amazing. She is a mental health professional for over 10 years. She's also a physical therapist, a certified dementia specialist, and she's going to be able to talk to us about brain injury tonight, just all the things we want to know about what is impairing our mental health. So if you remember, last week we talked to Mary Angela Abeo, and we just chatted about her TEDx Live. And what we shared last week is that we really need the spaces to create these environments where people are ready and willing to sit back and relax and just talk about all that they're holding within. She talked about sacred spaces. She talked about suicide. She talked about suicide survivors. And most importantly, she talked about all that are left about suicide survivors. So tonight we are just hinging upon that, and we have amazing guests. So we have Tammy Mark, who I just told you about. We have Quiana Butler Roberts, who is a certified mental health first aid instructor. How many of you guys don't know what that means? So we're going to talk to Quiana about what that really means, and we're going to talk to her about suicide prevention. We're going to talk to her about this mental health crisis that we have going on right now. And I would say mental health crisis because some of the things we talked about last week, did you remember that every 40 seconds, there's somebody that commits suicide? Somebody that we know, somebody that we trust, somebody that we love, somebody who knows somebody who is committing suicide because they didn't have the sacred space to talk. They didn't know where to go for help. They just felt hopeless. And tonight we want to just open up that conversation to talk about it. We also are going to have Manav, and he is here tonight to talk to us because not only about sacred spaces, but he's also going to talk about children, specifically about children when we're raising children like me. I have a 7-year-old, and we're raising these children and we don't really know what they're not saying. So he's going to talk to us about how to pull that out of them and how to leverage art therapy to do that, which is so absolutely cool. I love it. So Manav, I met when we both did a TEDx talk. So I think I spoke to you guys about doing a TEDx talk a couple of weeks ago. Actually, it was September 7th when we did that. And he talked about children leveraging their voice, but when voices fail, what can you do? And I really love that. So I invited him tonight to be on this panel of experts with Quiana and with Tammy in order to talk to us about not only creating sacred spaces, but how do we tell the symptoms of mental illness? Let's talk about mental health and what that means. Tammy's also certified and has been doing really amazing things in the Alzheimer's space. And what does that mean? Like, what are the early signs? So for me, I'm aging, And that means my mother's aging, my grandmother's aging. They're watching tonight. My grandmother is 88, and as she struggles sometimes with remembering things, my mother does, I do. So what are the early signs, and what can we be doing differently, right? So I'd love for you guys to join the conversation tonight before we introduce them in the next segment. So we always talk about our wins. As you see, I'm here by myself tonight, and so I don't have Mervin. He's out on business travel, and he wishes he was here. But we are talking about mental illness and how to really leverage our voice and recognize the signs of mental illness and mental health. So what are our wins? We always start with wins. My wins for this week or last week. What's my win? That's a good one. You would think that I would think about this before I go on the air. I didn't. But I think my win was my son coming home 4 days in a row saying I've been on great behavior. That is a win. I'm claiming it as a win because most time he comes home, he's like, hey, I got in trouble for this. So that's my win for this week, is my son just recognizing that it feels great to not be accepted. That's okay. And it also feels great to recognize that I'm good and I've been on great behavior according to my teacher. So I'm claiming it. Yes. So what are you guys' wins for tonight? Type in, share where you are. I'm trying to get on myself and I can't seem to find the way, but I will in a minute. So if you're just joining tonight, we have Tammy Mark, who is an expert in mental health, and she's going to be talking to us about not only mental health, what does that mean, but also recognizing the signs of brain injury as well as Alzheimer's. And some of our parents might be aging, and so that's really important for us to recognize the signs and then recognize what we can do differently in order to treat our own parents, which is important for us to take care of. We're going to have Quiana on, who is really a certified mental health first aid instructor. We're going to find out what that means and then how she can help us to recognize the crisis that we're in today, as well as working through that. We're going to have Manav, Khanna on tonight, who is an expert in healing. And when we think about mental health, absolutely we recognize that we need to go to professionals, but we also know that there's healing outside of our doctors. There's healing that is natural. And so we're going to talk to him about energy and about healing and about children, because very rarely do we recognize that children are impacted in mental health. Like, what is their mental state, especially with all of the technology that's going on today? What is it that they're thinking about, that they're harboring, that they're holding? And that's super important to us. So we're going to talk to Manav, and he is a meditation and energy healer. He's also a technologist by profession. So if there's any questions that we have for Manav, we want to go ahead and push that in place as well. One of the things I wanted to talk about with you guys tonight is wellness. Did you know that there's 7 dimensions of wellness? I didn't. So when we think about those, we think about the physical, the emotional, the intellectual, the spiritual, the social, environmental, and occupational. And one of the things I want to really delve in tonight is really on the social, because social media is so prevalent for us. And I really want to touch into that because that's where our children are. That's where, if you're a business owner, you are pushed to be on social media because that's where the relevance is, and that's where you can reach your audience. And so when we think about that and we think about mental health, when we step back and recognize where are the distractions that are coming our way, what do we see? And we see social media, right? So I really want to leverage tonight in this platform to talk about when we do see the stresses of social media, how do we play into that? How do we step ourselves back? Why is it that I have a women's retreat every year? Why is it that Mervin is starting his men's retreat in November? It's because sometimes we don't recognize the opportunity for us to step back and for us to just recollect ourselves and pause in what is right now and is what is nourishing ourselves to be our best selves. What is nourishing our mind, our bodies, our souls in order to grow ourselves. And sometimes that just means stepping back from everything we're used to. So all of our guests tonight, the exciting part is that they're gonna show us how we can recollect ourselves. So between Quiana, between Tammy, between Manav, between myself, we are just gonna showcase what you can do in this environment in order to step back, recollect yourself, and then recognize when you see symptoms of mental health just deteriorating, what you can do differently in order to shift that person to the right resources, in order to grow them, in order to cultivate them. So I'm super excited tonight. When we're back, we are going to talk about, we're going to introduce our guests, which are Tammy Mark, which I talked about has over 10 years experience in mental health. She is really in a position right now where she's able to talk to us about Alzheimer's disease, where she has been with her mother, who has since passed, but she has taken care of her mother and recognized all the symptoms of Alzheimer's. And if you're like me, you have parents and grandparents in your life that are starting to see signs, and we're going to talk to Tammy about what those signs are, which is so important to us to recognize and then to be able to help cope with that, because it's not only them that are in that state, but it's also us that are taking care of them. So important. We have Quiana here tonight, who is a mental health specialist, and she's going to talk to us about that and about suicide prevention, about how to recognize those signs. And then we also have Manav, who is here tonight to talk to us about wellness. And when we talk about wellness in the mental health space, when we really delve into our children, what does that look like? So tune back in. We are so excited to have you. When we come back, you'll get to meet everybody, and we're just going to dive right in. So we are hoping that you just dive right in with us, and we'll be back with Now We're Talking.
Take a minute and listen to this flashback of the Artist Exchange radio show.
Any trouble, because I get into any trouble, but I had a problem that this then became a discussion at that workplace environment. Now, the discussion was I should have been more sensitive. In what way was my first response? And I guess when I had to meet with that said person who had the issue with the person who was said leader of that organization, I said, well, to that person, how would I have known that? Well, you should have asked.
I think so. You want my opinion?
It was a circle, and I was willing to go on that merry-go-round.
You are better than most.
Yeah.
I think that's normal when you're in a group and there's norming. Most of the time when you're in new work environments or you're in a space where you're getting to know people, it's normal now to ask for people's preferred pronouns. You wouldn't have known that.
Normal to who? What is normal?
Well, you work in social. You work in social innovation and
my pronouns, so it's not normal to me.
You don't, but I think because I feel like the person was probably offended because they felt like you were not honoring whoever they are, right? But you wouldn't have known that.
Still to this moment, I don't know what their pronouns are. So in that
they didn't offer
circle, we still don't know. So I'll go as far as saying I perceived it to be a she.
Perceive them to be a she.
Them.
Yeah.
Her, him, they, them.
It seems like they, them would be the easiest one on this one.
Join us every Monday and Friday at 2 p.m. for the Artist Exchange radio show, only on BeExposedRadio.com.
First they love you, then desert you. Leave with a plate full with no spoon. Ain't no space, I can't escape negativity. I got used to the taste. I've been bad, burned and fucked over. Remain strong through the past over. Kicking haters out of the way like masked over. Roll up, sip something, let it pass over. Who would I be? It ain't the man to me to let the next man take advantage of me. When that storm come, no pan I see. Get with it, not without it, then you'll see. I peep the haters, they know I'm greater. That's why they buzzing for the elevator. But I can't save you, the weed too loud on the pedal stool. Don't carry favors, always got your hand out demanding favors. When I just looked out, now you need more paper. I can't breathe, give me 3 feet. I never let y'all be the death of me. When my patients run that, yeah, nigga OT. Cause they wanna see me down like I'm an NCT. 6 words, get the fuck away from me, say I help you out.
Like the one thing you always gotta remember is people gonna try to project their insecurities onto you. But you can't listen to what them niggas saying. You gotta get out here and do your shit regardless. You gonna do what you love for the rest of your life anyway. So why not turn that shit into something? Be a man of everything you say. This shit bigger than me, man. Like yeah, I'm good and all that, but you know what I mean? I ain't shit without y'all. So no matter what you up, you gotta go hard. Don't matter. Can you imagine how I really having nothing is? Stomach growling, you ain't got no food in the fridge. Surviving on a jail diet of water and bread. No father figure, it's cause my father did. Mom's bringing
a minute and listen to this flashback of the Black by Demand radio show.
Control. They said she wouldn't so they didn't know if she had a weapon. So it's just a mess. So yeah, you do have to have these discussions with your children.
You do, and you have to make them aware of that there is an enemy out there. Every time the police pull you over, or every time you have an interaction with the police as a black person, you are at risk of being in front of your enemy. Hopefully, it's not a police officer that wants to demonstrate that he's your enemy, but we all see it's a high probability of that being the case. So if we're not talking to our children do not have the coping mechanisms to deal with these type of intense situations. What they're going to do is what most of us do as black people, me and anyone else, which is become emotional. And that is the trigger point for the police. They know that black people are emotional people. So when they arrive on the scene, they are purposely trying to say and do things to you to get your emotions up, right? And then once they get your emotions up, then it's like, oh, that's what we needed. Now we're going to kick your ass. You know what I'm saying? Gotcha. You know, so I'm saying we need to have these discussions with our children, you know, and make them understand in this day and age, and it's every day and age really, but we'll just say this day and age for the sake of it being so prevalent on social media, like you have to understand what you're getting yourself into. And I think a lot of us as black people are just scared to still tell our children that there are a group of people out here that are your enemies.
Join us every Monday at 12 noon for Black by Demand radio show, only on BeExposedRadio.com.
This unknown to find who we really are. Crash into something new and take a break from our broken heart. Talk with the hip, tell me you lie. I think we should go for another round. Baby, try not to say too much. Let your love come down. If you wanna rule, it's some rules you gotta live by. Live by. Stay true to your cool, make a move. Don't wait on nobody else. And if it feels like a melody, sing a song, be my radio. And if you follow me there, I'll follow you back. Let the night unfold. I can tell that she can't get enough. Show enough, she couldn't get the feels off from me. Oh no, she couldn't get the feels off from me. Touching hands till we dance in the dark. Show enough, she couldn't get the feels off from me. We do whatever you like. Get the feels off from me. Oh no, she couldn't get the feels off from me. Let's slide, you and me alone, to find who we really are. Crash into something new. I got that leg banging up the car. You throw me a kiss, tell me you lie. I think we should go for another round. Baby, I wanna take you, but we gotta groove so we can lose the crowd. If you wanna rule, there's some rules you gotta live by. good, you cool, make a move, don't wait on nobody else. And if it feels like a melody, sing a song, be my radio. And if you follow me there, I'll follow you back. Let the night unfold. I can tell that she can't get enough, show enough, she couldn't keep it things up for me. I know she couldn't keep it things up for me. Touching hands till we dance in the dark, show enough, she couldn't keep it things up for me. We do whatever you like, things up for me. I know she couldn't keep it things up for me. You can be my radio. If you follow me there, I'll follow you back. Let the night unfold. That you can't get enough, show love. Hands up, gotta keep your hands up for me. Hands up for me, shoot it, do it. Hands up for me, oh yeah. Dance till we dance in the dark, show love. Hands up for me, we do whatever you like. Hands up for me, I know she couldn't. Hands up for me.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Hi, and welcome back to Now We're Talking. It is Thursday, and we are just so excited to be here. So if you guys remembered, last week we talked to Mary Angela, who had a TED Talk talking to us about mental health and really creating these sacred spaces. So I'm so excited to introduce our two amazing guests today. Thank you for being here. So Quiana is here and Tammy is here. They are mental health experts. And on the line, hello Manav.
Hi Lolita. Hi everyone, all the viewers. Hello.
Yes, so I'm just going to have you guys have an opportunity to introduce yourselves and really tell us about, when you think about the mental health space, what your profession is in it. So you want to go first, Tammy?
Sure. My name is Tammy Mark. When I think about mental health, I think about somebody's ability to really be able to think through things in a fashion in which they're comfortable. I think about them being able to function in a fashion in which they're comfortable. I think about stress. I think about so many different things that can affect somebody's capacity to function daily, whether it be positive or negative, and what it can turn into.
I love that. And I think what's amazing about you and your profession, not only have you been doing this for 10 years, so you'll be able to help us to guide the conversation tonight, is you have really delved into brain injury and you've really delved into things like Alzheimer's. Yes. And especially, I'm not saying I'm old because I'm not, but in our age, in our aging parents, we're starting to see symptoms of things like Alzheimer's or memory loss. Right. And what does that look like? And if we don't know, then how do we deal with that? Because it can be really scary.
It is. It's actually a very scary thing, right, for the person that's going through it and for the people that are around them. It's extremely scary. And it's something that you want to be know about and you want to be educated about.
Absolutely. So I'm so glad you're here tonight.
Thank you.
And so Quiana, talk to us about what you do.
Thank you so much for having me, Lolita. So really quickly, my introduction to mental health and mental illness started when I was a very young girl. I was a high school peer counselor for other students that struggled with mental illness or had parents or family members that had mental illness, because we know that mental illness doesn't, as Tammy said, it doesn't just impact the individual that has the sickness, because it is an illness. Like people get other illnesses.
Yeah.
It is an illness, but it also impacts the people that are around them. And so I became a peer counselor, and I started speaking to young people and counseling and supporting young people that were like myself. And that is what kind of started the passion that was in me. And the reason why is because my mom, for years I watched my mother struggle with an undiagnosed mental illness, because as you know, in the Black community, oftentimes we don't get help. We're taught that we're supposed to be strong, that, you know,
Suck
it up, pray through it, you know, you're not the first one, you got to handle your business, and it's a sign of weakness. And so a lot of times we don't seek help and treatment for those reasons. And I think my mother prided herself on being a very strong individual, and we don't encourage each other to get help. And so my mother didn't have anybody in her ear saying, you know what, you need to get help. And as a child, I just saw her as being sick. You know, oh, your mommy's sick, you know, your mommy's sick. So when she would go through, she diagnosed with depression. And when she would go through a depressive state, or a bout with it, if you will, she would black out the whole house, hang blankets up at the windows, constantly in darkness, always crying. And then as we know that people with mental illnesses sometimes self-medicate with alcohol and drugs, which is also a mental health disorder. And so watching my mother experience that, and not knowing what it was,
what to do as a child, right?
Because I mean, I was helpless, you know. I just knew that my mother was sick and I couldn't help her, you know. And so as I got a little older, and as I was in high school, started learning about it, and I was able to I had a support group, because I had to deal with it. And then it's just been a passion of mine, and of course life will take you in different directions, and now I'm a certified mental health first aid instructor. And I went that route because I think it's important for everybody to recognize the signs and symptoms of mental illness and mental health disorders. We have to look out for each other, you know. We have to check on our strong friend, our smart friend, our quiet friend, you know, our beautiful friend, our successful friend. We got to check on each other. We have to be our sisters' keepers, and in order to do that, we should recognize the signs and symptoms and be okay with having those tough conversations. I like the way you said that in your promo. You said, you know, the tough conversations require tough conversations.
Absolutely.
So we have to have them. We have to pick up the phone and say, hey girl, how are you? I haven't talked to you for a while. And so now I believe that I am like a crusader. I want to educate as many people so that we can recognize there's no reason why anybody should be left in darkness, because that's what it is. You know, most of the times when somebody's dealing with mental illness, they're in a place of darkness, hopelessness, despair, like you stated earlier. And if we can recognize, if we're educated to recognize, the same way with first aid, like physical first aid, CPR, you know, you see somebody choking, you know, they're doing this, we know that's a sign that somebody's choking. So what do? We render first aid to them. Can I help you? Are you choking? You know, call 911. So we have to recognize the signs and symptoms of mental health, mental illnesses and mental health disorders, so that we can render first aid. Are you okay? You know, are you thinking about
if you're not okay, then let's talk about it.
And if you're not, let's talk about it. Let's find ways to get you help. You know, whether it's therapy. I'm not a therapist yet, but whether it's therapy, self-help, faith, you know, faith communities, family support, you know, exercise, physical therapy, those kinds of things. So there's ways to help them.
I love that. I love that.
So
no, that is so great, because there's so many questions I have as a result of that, and so many ahas, because we've all seen it, right? So Manav, are you there? Manav?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. I wanted you to introduce yourself, because one of the things I think is amazing about you and your work is that you work with children and really pulling out what they have inside of them that they haven't yet discovered or really talked about. So talk to us about yourself and what you do as related to mental health.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Lolita, for the opportunity and inviting me. Lolita and I met at the TEDx event where both of us were speakers, and we hit it off, and we resonated on several levels, and one of them was mental health and just overall emotional mental well-being. My journey started off 12 years ago I was in my early 30s, and I figured out that my happiness and well-being and state of peace depended on nothing outside of me, but everything inside of me. And most of my beliefs about I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not nice enough, all of those beliefs, I figured when I started looking inwards that those beliefs were actually formed as I was growing up. And research shows that this process of a child's mental health actually begins in utero, when the child is still in the mother's womb. The mother's cortisol levels, the stress hormone levels, can actually affect the child in the womb. So it starts very, very early on. And and this was 12 years ago. Around the same time, I became a father to a lovely girl. She's 12 years old today. And as she was growing up, I was growing up with her, because I figured out that all my beliefs as an adult were beliefs that I had acquired as a child. And I wanted to make sure that, my daughter doesn't have to wait until she's in her 30s to figure this all out. So I feel very strongly about helping children sort out their thoughts and feelings, understand their thoughts and feelings. Really understanding yourself begins with understanding your thoughts and feelings, because that's what forms your belief, that's what determines who you are and your relationship with the world. So I feel very strongly about working with children. I think that's where we need to start planting these seeds of mental health, emotional health, mental well-being, emotional well-being. And that's what I feel strongly about. And I'm a technologist by profession, so I'm not a therapist by profession, but I'm an advocate of mental health and spiritual health and emotional health. And I've spent 12 years literally just, it's like research on my own self. Finding out tools, making this something that people, children, all of us can practice easily, simply on a daily basis in our lives. Mental health and emotional health doesn't have to be an esoteric, bookish, out there, woo-woo world, right? It has to be practical. And that's what my goal is. That's what I advocate. And as many people and as many children, as many minds that I can influence, even one, I think that's a success for each and every one of us. So that's who I am, that's what I do. Lovely to be here, and thank you.
Absolutely. So Manav, because we only have you for a limited time, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, especially because you relate to children specifically, what is it that we can see in our children that you would say that you see all the time that makes us want to recognize that we need to delve deeper? What is it that we can see in our children that says, we need to delve deeper?
I think we just have to be aware, right? If we want children to be calm, peaceful, in control, behave well, we have to look beyond their behaviors, right? The behavior is going to be triggered by an emotion or a thought or a feeling that they cannot understand. So if you see patterns in behavior and changes really, right? If they are acting out more frequently than they used to, if they're suddenly lost or gloomy more than they're used, they usually are, look out for those patterns and don't try and correct those surface behaviors. I think we need to really try and figure out what is the emotion or the feeling behind that behavior. There is something bigger that they don't know how to deal with, which manifests in the form of a behavioral change. Yeah. So use the behavioral change to be your pathway to finding out the real emotional or the mental challenge that the child is going through. The behavior is just a symptom, it's an indicator. Try to get to the root cause. Yeah. So use the behavior of the child to find the deeper reasons where they're struggling.
I think that's so critical because, I know that I've had you work with Walker before because as a parent, I want to recognize all that is around his surroundings and what he might not be speaking to me about. Now, I recognize I'm a very in touch parent. I believe I am. And one of those things that I believe is that we have a relationship where he can talk to us. But when I engaged you, it was because I recognized that there were things he was saying that wasn't really going into, and I wanted to know more so that I could help more. And I recognize that there's so many pressures in society right now. There's so many pressures with social media, with friends that have brothers and sisters who are doing X, Y, and Z with TV shows, and there's so much pressure that's on these children today. And I remember like literally sitting with my son and him talking to me about the bullies he had in school, and I'm like, really? First grade? Like, what is happening? So I engaged you, and that's why I really was really excited to have you on the show, because the work that you're doing with him in one of your therapies of art therapy is so, it's not intrusive, but it is it's you meeting them where they need to be so that then you can still pull out of them what's necessary. And I wanted you to have the opportunity to talk about that in a limited time you have before we go into commercial break, because I know you have to leave, but I wanted you to talk about art therapy and how people can get in touch with you.
I would love to. I think one of the things that is really important to understand is a child may not always be able to express this emotional and mental struggle that the child is going through. They don't have language. They do not, sometimes a child is, in my TED talk I talk about some of these cases, but a child does not always have the right words or the right language about whatever emotional struggles they're going through. Child may not be able to say, oh, I feel ashamed, oh, I was bullied. They may not even have words like those. There was a child whose story I have covered in my TED talk as well. He was bullied in school for the color of his skin. This was in India. We're a brown skin race as well in India, but even, it's a universal, these are universal situations, these are universal feelings. So he was a dark skinned child, and he was ridiculed for the color of his skin. And all he could use to describe his feelings was the word sad. That's the word that he used. But I've been using a lot of drawing work with children. So I asked him, I said, draw the feeling, right? Draw the feeling and draw the parts of the body in which you feel that sad feeling when somebody tells you that you look like, dark, or your heart is as black as you are. That's what the child was told. So when he drew it out, he could actually, every feeling is felt as a physical sensation in the body. And a child can feel that sensation, we can feel that sensation, and that is what comes out in drawing. So we go beyond language and the limits of spoken language when we actually draw out our feelings on the sheet of paper. So when he drew out, when somebody draws out their feeling, you can actually feel the hot sensation that is felt in the heart or the head, or the heavy, sticky, dirty sensation that's felt in another part of the body. Every sensation, every feeling shows up as a different sensation in the form of, different textures and colors and temperatures. And so art really helps that way. Rather than relying on just language and saying, describe what you're feeling, tell them to show what you're feeling. So art helps them show rather than tell. And I think it's a really strong expression. It has helped me really identify with several children that I've worked with over the years what exactly they're tangibly, physically feeling in the body.
Absolutely.
Rather than, just trying to describe that. And that gives a really, really good insight as a parent, as a teacher, as a counselor, as a therapist as to what the child is truly physically experiencing.
Absolutely.
So children, it's important to understand, two things that I really want to say. It's important to understand children may not be able to express what they are going through, their emotional and mental struggles in words, because their language and vocabulary is limited. And secondly, always remember that an experience, it's a mental experience, but it's also physical. Like every experience is taking the form of a sensation or sensations in the body. So ask, notice that, we grown up can notice that, ask the child to notice that, and drawing is a great way, art is a great way to show that rather than tell, so showing is always so much better than telling.
Absolutely.
And
No,
those are the two things that I want to say.
No, I so appreciate that. And I think that will delve into what we're talking about tonight. And so I'm so excited that you were able to join us, and I appreciate it because I know that your daughter is doing an amazing recital tonight. So thank you so much. We want you to get into that, and I know you're also not in our same time zone. So thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And so when we let you go, we're also going to go to commercial break. But when we come back, we are going to have Tammy and we're going to have Quiana really talk to us about mental health care and really delving into that. And so we'll recap, and then we'll also have a segment from you, hopefully if you're able to record it, on what you're leaving us with tonight in order to work with our children.
I absolutely will send it to you, and thank you so much for having me, and all the best, and enjoy the rest of your show.
Thank you, and I can't wait to share your TEDx talk, because this is just so powerful, especially because we rarely can pull out what our children are feeling, honestly.
Right, exactly.
Thank you, Manav.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, well, when we're back, we are going to tackle some tough discussions, and we hope that you stay with us. All right, take care.
You're now listening to BeExposedRadio.com. Check out this fire flashback.
We need to relearn what it is to be these bosses and how we conduct ourselves as business-minded individuals and just people in general. I let my gut, and if I call it gut or God or whatever, I'm led by that energy. I know where it comes from. I know where it's, taking me, and you have to figure out what is important to you, and don't play this game. It's a game that we've learned to play, this chess game, and life is not a chess game. Life is real, bones, flesh, blood, decisions.
Make sure you check out the Artist Exchange Show every Monday and Friday at 2 p.m. only on BeExposedRadio.com.
This bitch jumping. Okay. If I sit around, hold up. Look. If I sit around, hold up. Yeah. Rebel rap. If I sit around, I'ma smoke some more. Wasn't even thinking about smoke before, but I'm in my head and I'm in the bed. Don't know who I am, like I'm wearing a mask. Working mode, tell them where the cash. If you wear the cash, tell them where the cash. If you playing for you, gon' run it back. Don't make promises, but I promise that. Don't promise me, cause I ain't into that. Fell in love with that and got hurt from that. Now it's all over and the curtain's back. Can't see you not noticing that. I'm letting it go, it ain't holding me back. Yeah, I'm on dice, but ain't come for the crack. Drinking with uncle, we only do jack. How I'm alive, I thank God for that. Praying about it, things getting better. Open it up with my name on the letter. What you crazy about it? Saying whatever, you shy to be you. You know you gotta be you. Sometimes I need privacy too. Yeah, you know I ride. You know I ride, and you know you ride for me too. Yeah, you know I. Look, you like getting.
Listen to this flashback of Skyline Radio Show.
So where we at? Where we talk about the effects and what's going on in these schools.
Yeah.
And what people don't understand. Just real briefly, I just want to talk a little bit about what people say bullying is or is not. So bullying comes in many forms. It's a teasing, it's the cyberbullying, it's the texting, it's the phone calls, it's the posting of pictures and people's personal information to pretty much cause them harm, to have them feel insecure. It's the sex assaults that people actually put out there. There are physical assaults, and there are mental assaults and emotional assaults. And what I like to remind individuals that any aggressive behavior towards anyone that is unwanted and unwarranted in an individual asks you to stop. Let's stop there. Stop.
And they should be respecting that.
respecting that and respecting yourself, because when you're able to respect another person, you're able to respect yourself. And the way that you're able to show that respect is that you know that you have a gift and you know you're uniquely made and that you matter, and then you also acknowledge that the next person beside you matters as well.
Right.
You know, and we lose that sometimes. Bullying is a behavior that underestimates the lives and legacy of you. I'm sure when it was bullying.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Hi, and welcome back to Now We're Talking. I am so excited to have you back. So if you are just joining, we are talking mental health. We are talking symptoms. We are talking signs. We are talking all about mental health and how you can recognize what those are and then move to action. So we've had Manav. He was just on the line, Manav Khanna, and he was talking to us about children, and specifically in children, how you pull out emotions out of children. And I thought that was so interesting because that is something that we rarely think about with our children, and we all have children on our panel, and sometimes your children don't talk to you about what they're going through, but they're going through so much. And so what he was able to talk to us about is how to pull out those emotions, and then he leverages art therapy to be able to draw those. And I can talk when he's not here because he's worked with my son before on how to leverage your voice through art and leverage your emotions. So what is it that you're feeling, and what do those colors mean? Like after Walker draws them and they're black or they're red in these bold colors, what do they mean, and how now do I interact with him differently? So excited to have you, Manav. Thank you so much. So now that we're back, and welcome all of you guys that we see online right now. So excited that you are here with myself, Quiana, and Tammy. We are here as mental health professionals, all in our own right.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
All different, but all in our own right. So Quiana, talk to us about what you do, because when I hear mental health first aid professional, what does that mean?
Okay, so I'm a mental health, I'm a certified mental health first aid instructor.
Okay.
And so what I do basically, mental health first aid is the same as physical first aid. Okay. Again, as I stated earlier, if you see somebody choking, you see that, you know the sign of someone choking. This is what they're choking. Normally that means there's something, the symptom is something is lodged in their airway, and so therefore you're going to render first aid to them. As a mental health first aid instructor, I teach people to recognize the signs and symptoms of mental illness and mental health disorders. Okay. To how to render help and offer aid, and then direct people, guide them to get support.
So how can we recognize it? Like, what do we see?
So there's different. So for different disorders, there's different signs and symptoms. So what I would like to start by saying is, first of all, I'm an instructor for youth and adults, and when I say youth, meaning I train people who work with the youth as well as adults. So the 3 top mental illness or mental disorders for adults are depression, anxiety, and substance abuse. Most people didn't really know that substance abuse has been classified as a mental health disorder. The top 2 for children are depression and anxiety.
So I want to pause there and just take it a step back so that everybody that is looking recognizes that for adults, what we didn't recognize is that alcohol abuse or substance abuse is mental illness.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
it is. And so, again, we tend to generalize it, or trivialize it. Well, so and so's an alcoholic. You know, if you loved your kids, you would stop drinking, right? And so. And that's a myth. You know, one of the things that you mentioned in your promo that we would talk about are the myths. That's a myth. You know, people can't just will themselves out of some of these illnesses the same way, and we can't just will ourselves out of cancer. You know, cancer is a physical sickness. It's an illness. Substance abuse, alcohol abuse is a sickness. It's a disorder. You know, so by threatening someone to take their family away or things like that, that doesn't just make them stop doing it because it's an illness. So we want to recognize the signs and the symptoms of them, right? The average age of diagnosis of a mental health disorder in children is age 11. My daughter's 12. So we have young children, as your friend mentioned, who are struggling, but we don't recognize it. So some of the things that we want to do is we want to check to see if there's a deviation from the norm, especially in kids, because as he mentioned earlier, it's difficult to determine what a child is feeling, because a lot of times they don't tell us. You know, how was school today? Good. You know, right, good. What did you learn? You know, that kind of thing. So to try to get them, even an otherwise healthy child, to communicate with us is challenging. So to get a child that is experiencing mental health issues is even more challenging. So you want to look at a deviation from the norm, right? If you have a child that's normally very happy-go-lucky and engaging, and they start to reclude themselves, they're constantly in their room.
So the behavior changes.
The behavioral changes, right? And then there's physical changes, you know, oh, I'm not eating. Now with social media, that's a big challenge, especially for girls, the Instagram, because everybody wants to look at it like an Insta model, right? And so now you have young children, young girls who are starving themselves to try to look like somebody who's been photoshopped, right? But they don't know any better, right? They don't recognize. And so if those behaviors are changing, and then you want to reach out to the teachers, you know, because what happens is sometimes in a vacuum, right? As a parent, I may see one behavior, the teacher may see another behavior, the counselor may see another behavior, the coach may see another behavior, and we're not communicating. So it's important to communicate, to reach out to the teacher or the coach to say, have you seen a difference? And then what we want to see, we want to look at is the length of time that you've noticed this change, because that's always significant. How long has it been? You know, has it been 4 to 6 weeks of this behavior? And then you want to talk to them.
No, I love that. No, thank you for that. And we have a couple of people on the line right now. So Jerry says, great discussion. As parents, we have to recognize that our children are going through struggles, right? And it's so true. We also have somebody that says, build that awareness of recognizing their feelings. And I think that's the key right there, is recognizing their feelings. And that's what Manav had helped me to recognize, is not only talk to them about, hey, how was school today? But it is like, how were you feeling when that person did that? No. How were you feeling? And that's what
how did that make you feel? Right.
Yes.
That's the question you ask. How did that make you feel?
To dig
now,
deep.
And sometimes you have to be careful, because for one, it's in children, it's difficult because adolescents go through adolescence, you know, I mean, they're always changing, and it's a lot to go through. I mean, sometimes I think as adults we forget what it was like when we were going through puberty.
And society places that norm on
them. Exactly.
And says that this is normal. It is. And for boys and for girls, it's different. Right? Because that stigma of boys, you're not supposed to cry, you're supposed to be tough, you're supposed to man up, you're supposed to be. And then for girls, it's okay to cry. It's okay to do this. And then when you don't dig deeper into that anger or into that, why are you crying? Why don't you want to be this way? Why are you hiding? Why are you doing this? And into that behavior, then it becomes, you know, a problem if you don't deal with this.
Right,
you know?
Exactly. And it's interesting that you say that, and you bring up the difference between boys and girls, because ironically, although it makes sense that the incidence of mental health issues or mental health disorders are reported far less in boys than they are in girls, or in men far less than they are in women, because again, the stigma, the myths associated with it. Again, another myth that, you know, men are supposed to be strong, you can't cry, men can't seek help, men can't be depressed.
Or if it's seen as a weakness, so then it's okay for a woman to go through it.
Right, you know? Exactly. You know, or it's okay for a woman to be depressed, you know, but a man can't be depressed. A man or have issues with depression. A man cannot struggle with anxiety, and so on and so forth. And then when you start getting into the stronger disorders like psychosis and
the schizophrenia
and bipolar and things like that.
But that's what I want to talk about when we get back, is really delving into individually and really taking them at once, because what we have is a lot of people watching who are either experiencing or seeing somebody experiencing these different levels of mental health issues and into mental illness. And so we need to go to commercial now, but when we come back, we're going to take them one by one. So please write to us and let us know what you want to talk about so we can delve into it when we're back on Now We're Talking.
Lil Pop. Y'all can go ahead and cry now. I'ma show these niggas what to do with one of your beats, man. I am Gas, by the way.
Strong woman story should have been on CNN. Nobody knows what it's like being Gwen. Windows closed in the house, it ain't no CNN. Can't gain weight for years, she been being thin. Single mother, no help from the system. When they was giving out food stamps, she missed them. Birth certificate, baby daddy, she couldn't list them. But her son was so beautiful when she kissed him. Blame it on love, but nigga she could've died with. Destroyed the whole world and found out she was a side chick. The nigga loved his wife and it got hard to hide it. So when Gwen confronted him, he ain't even denied it. Her fault, depends on who you asking. She tried to be a stripper, but the tip out was taxing. Buying all the purses, trying to keep up with the fashion. And her mama hated babysitting with a passion.
Exposed Radio.
Well, if you made them, take care of them.
Yeah, that's
period.
The real. Right. That's the real deal.
It's period.
Right. And all that old money shouldn't go toward this, money should go to. If the child is with one of the parents 24/7, 7 days a week, you don't even come get your child every day. You come get your child once a month maybe, or once every 3 months.
Right.
You cannot dictate where that money goes, especially if the child ain't calling you about nothing. Now, if the child calling you every week, then you can question about where the child support is going. But if every time you pick up the child, they look nice, they ain't complaining about nothing, why are you worrying about where the money go at?
It is what it is. Radio show.
Skirt, 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 skirt. Start, skirt, 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 start, start. I be up in the way. 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 Running on my face. Gucci guilty on my face. I be up in the way. 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 Bedroom phone ring, girl in t-shirt answers me. I get off on the way that she answers me. First time saw her, I knew she was the one for me. Ever since then, we've been vibing on some chemistry. It's just a matter of time. I know she feeling my vibe. I got the keys to the ride. She put her hands on my thigh. She got that look in her eye.
The Artist Exchange Radio Show every Friday 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every Saturday 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Real artist, real talk, real live on BeExposedRadio.com. I was meeting with a friend yesterday, and I've gotten to the point where don't ask me a question because the truth is going to come out. And
exactly.
Just don't do it.
If you ain't looking for the truth, don't come to me.
Don't do it because I can't hold my tongue. And she wants to be this stylist, boutique, but you're not doing anything in that nature. And I can't take you seriously if you're not doing those things. And I understood why people didn't take me seriously because I found myself in somebody else's lane. I was good at what I was doing and what I wanted to be, but I wasn't doing it for me. So how can I ask you to take me seriously if I'm living in somebody else's shoes?
And nobody can do what you do. And I think that that's a big problem that people face now. Like, you see what somebody else is doing and you want to do that when that's not your lane.
That's not your lane.
That's not what you're supposed to be doing.
But it's popular. It's getting that person money. It's getting that person applause. Oh, I want applause. I want money. Let me stand over here behind them.
And then a lot of times people aren't honest with themselves either. Like, I was thinking earlier today, I've been woke for almost 2 days, so so you get honesty, and I was thinking, like,
The Artist Exchange Radio Show.
This is a Poverty ENT exclusive. Next stop, Texaco, strapped up, you already know. Fuck niggas hate, that's how it goes. Bros with me, yeah, it's time to go.
listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Hey, and welcome back to Now We're Talking. We are so excited. We are talking about mental health and how we create these spaces so that we're able to talk about it. So I have Quiana, who is here tonight. I have Tammy, who is here tonight. And we have had Manav call in tonight from a different time zone, I might add. International. But we are really talking about adults and children, how we recognize when your mental health is not as apt as what we would want every day, right? So Tammy, yes. So Tammy has been working in mental health for over 10 years, and I'm so excited to have her tonight. And the question that I have for you, because I'm an aging young woman, and I'm not there yet, but I have parents and grandparents who are there, and you know, what they are is what we are going to. And so I just wanted to talk about what are the signs of our mental health starting to, I don't want to say deteriorate, but I want to say just like slightly slow down. So thank you. So like Alzheimer's, talk to us about that, and talk to us about how that relates to mental health. Because when we talk about Alzheimer's, I didn't recognize, honestly, when I was like, Alzheimer's, but when you really think about it, it is an alteration of your mental health, right?
It is. It's actually a disease process in which the cells degenerate over time, and it's progressive. It's not normal aging. You know, normal aging, other things happen that actually are not as prevalent as those in Alzheimer's. Some of the common signs and symptoms to be aware of would be like repeating things over and over again, forgetting conversations. It could be maybe losing your way to familiar places, forgetting how to do familiar things. Could be wandering, you know, some people wander. Could cause changes in personality, maybe social withdrawal. Because you're going through those changes, you tend to withdraw. You know, our higher level people who are not as severely demented or have Alzheimer's as others tend to be able to hide it, if you will. When my mother first was diagnosed, she was good at hiding it. We didn't know. And then she started repeating the same thing over and over again.
You think she was trying to hide it?
She was. She was very smart. We had bought her a computer. My mother was a computer technician and programmer. My mother could put together a computer from scratch. She had built me 2 computers for college when I was in Morgan. And what we did when she first developed dementia, she wasn't working, she stayed home, we bought a computer. My mom didn't know how to turn it on. She didn't tell us until months later when we figured out she wasn't even using it. You know, so we didn't know. We didn't know any better. We just put it in her house and we thought, okay, great, she'll be happy. And nobody really checked to see if she was actually using it. And she asked me how to turn it on. And that was like the most painful thing ever. And just continuously doing it over and over and over again, and to the point where I said, you know what, something's wrong. She would even, or some of the early signs would be like they would even start cooking and she would leave the pot on till the water boiled out, and then you would smell the smoke. She would forget about what was on the stove, leaving the faucet running. To the point where it could cause depression, another mental illness, coupled on top of that, and some anxiety.
How old was your mom?
My mom, it was early onset for her. It was in her late 50s, actually. Now I'm hearing some people in their late 30s and even 40s have become affected. And there's so many different reasons why. Not just Alzheimer's, but dementia in itself, those symptoms that actually affect that your cognitive ability to function daily, your thinking process, your ability to judge things whether or not they're safe, your ability to problem solve correctly. You know, are you safe, making safe decisions, you know? Would you have your child in the bathtub with the radio sitting on the side and think that that was okay because it wasn't in the tub or close enough? Or would you make sure it was out of reach for that child? You know,
so
little
for
things like that.
our age, Tammy, let me ask you, like, what do we do when we see our parents or our grandparents, or even some of us have our great-grandparents who are still alive? What if we start seeing some of these symptoms, like leaving a pot on, or some of the things you've mentioned? What are some things that we can start doing now in order to help them to feel safe?
One big thing is not to get frustrated. A lot of people, even when you love your loved one so much, tend to get frustrated at them. And sometimes it's easy to lash out because you could be used to maybe arguing with your loved one and it's okay, but that in itself kind of breaks down their self-esteem when you are frustrated. So it's really just providing a safe environment. If you see things, just provide safety measures. Some people I know just kind of make sure that their loved one is by having little security devices in their home. They could have cameras or doorbells or, just little things to help access things easier so that they don't have to use those dangerous things. Stop cooking at a certain age if they leave the pots on, They have all these different pieces of technology now, like burner covers and things to lock the stove and turn the stove off. Wow. There's just tons of things out there, but you want to create a safe environment is the first thing. If they need supervision or if they need help, give them a supportive caregiver. Make it easy for them to talk to you about it. It's okay.
And I think that's with forgiving and to just let go of the frustration.
It's okay to lose a little bit of your cognitive ability and to need help. I'll help you answer those questions.
So do you think that's why they hide it, because they realize what's happening?
It's an embarrassment.
And they're afraid,
it's fearful.
right?
It's very scary. It's almost like there was a movie we watched at work called Still Alice. And, this woman, she was very highly educated. She was a college professor and then slowly forgot little things. And it's embarrassing when you're at that high level of education and slowly forget, I misplaced my keys, and it starts there. Imagine feeling that way. I can't find my keys. I can't find my way
not
home.
Remembering who
Where
you
is
are.
home?
Like, who are these people that's around
and then it's scary because now people are coming at you. You don't remember these things anymore. It's you don't know how to you just don't know what to do anymore.
So one of the things we love to do on this show is really leave people with tangibles that they can walk away with and recognize that if I see these things, these are things that I can do while I'm still in control. So help us with things that you can do. And I think you started to mention some of these things, like one, create a space where they feel like I'm not going to be yelled at.
Make them feel comfortable about it. Be able to talk to them about it. And seek the necessary help. It's okay to get help. It's okay to start medications if the doctor recommends it. You're not crazy if you start meds. Medication is not a bad thing.
That's another myth.
It's the only
That's
thing
another myth.
that actually helps you. And you want to seek therapy, support groups, counseling. There are so many things that therapy has to offer. Me as a physical therapist, people think, hey, what are you going to do with people who have a mental illness or Alzheimer's? Well, exercise is one of the hugest coping skills for any mental illness out there.
To move your mind on something.
Not even just that, but chemical releases. It releases certain chemicals in your brains. Absolutely, that help to create a positivity in you. And then, we also do music. So in my units, I actually work on a behavioral, or what we call now brain health unit. In old school, it was known as a psych unit. So what we actually do now is provide music. We play the old school jams, the music that they like, provide a nice, comfortable environment. They're up dancing, they're moving around. Absolutely, they're remembering the old times. And for them, it brings back it brings back that comfortable space for them. It brings back a place where they feel, anything else that I don't know how to do, I know how to do this. I can remember this. And exercise actually makes them feel better. It helps people lose weight. It helps their diet in so many ways. And it helps your physical health.
Physical health
on top of mental health.
Physical
So
health.
it's one of the biggest reasons why I decided to do it. My mom actually was an exerciseaholic. And she exercised every single day. And so that's another reason why I decided to intertwine the two. And she was a walker. So we just did a lot of walking. She wanted to wander, so I wandered with her. I walked with her and just turned around when she turned around and walked back, kind of thing.
And I think one of the things are to let go of your comfort zone so you can make other people feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
I think that is one of the things we want to leave our listeners with is as our parents and our loved ones and our grandparents get older, let go of what you think is comfortable in order to make comfort for them, because you're going to get there. And one of the things that might be comfortable is wandering. So if they want to wander with them and recognize and discover
an environment for them to wander. One of the things a lot of these assisted livings and hospitals are doing are decorating their hallways like it's home again. They're having flowers at the end of the halls. They're having, nice shutter windows placed certain ways, memorabilia like just the old school telephones and old things up that they will remember from their time. Just to make them feel familiar. Absolutely. You don't know what time zone they're in. You know, my mom used to say the president was Carter. Then she'd go to Johnson, you know, and I would always ask her every day. So it was like that would tell me kind of what time frame she was in her life at that moment.
And to bring back something that is comfortable. So, Quiana, when you work with patients or your clients, and you recognize that they're in this space, in your profession, what are you doing with them in order to help them to cope and to recognize the
So a lot of the things that Tammy mentioned, exercise is a huge coping mechanism. There are self-help books on cognitive behavior. Now, because everybody's so gadget prone, there are apps. There's an app for everything. Believe me, I tell everybody there's an app for that. So there's an app. There are apps that you can use for breathing, mental stimulation. There's light therapy, especially with depression, because we like to think of depression sometimes, or we refer to it as a dark place. And so light therapy, bright light therapy that you can use. And then faith. You know, I'm a very spiritual person, you know, and so family support, your spiritual support, you know, whether it is a church, a synagogue, or whatever it is, but there's still that support that you can get. And then
what about music therapy?
Music therapy, art therapy, art therapy. You'll be surprised how expressive that can be. And the thing that my main focus in mental health first aid is early intervention. So recognizing the signs and symptoms early, the withdrawal, the sadness, the deviations from the norm, the negative speaking, even suicidal thoughts. You know, we have. I mean, let's address the elephant in the room. You know, 2 weeks ago, I had a friend of a friend die by suicide, and sometimes you say that, oh, I didn't know, this was unbelievable. But when I went back through her timeline, I saw the signs there. You know, little posts. You know, I'm going to get through this day, one day at a time. It's just so hard. You know, things like that. So recognizing those signs and symptoms early, so that we can say, hey, friend, are you okay? Hey, sister, are you okay? Hey, mother, I know that what you're going through is difficult. Are you okay? Can I get you some help? What can we do? I had a family member that I recognized the signs early, and I kept saying, you know, I really think that you're struggling with depression, you know, and I saw it, the dark spaces, being in a dark place, you know, the negative thoughts, the hopelessness, you know, I'll never finish this, I'll never get through it, this will never happen for me, you know, that kind of speaking. And I said, you know, I think you need to get some help. You really need to talk to somebody.
I like the directness, because a lot of people will say, are you okay? And it's, I'm okay.
No, right, exactly, because that's not enough.
It's not enough.
That's not enough.
And I want you to explain why it's not enough and why it's okay to be direct with these individuals when you feel it's an emergency. Because some people feel shy, you know, about that.
That's I'm glad you brought that up. Again, back to the elephant in the room with suicidal thoughts, right? And Lolita, again, you said tough conversations deserve tough conversations. You know? And so we have to be direct, because many times people are reaching out for help.
Absolutely.
They want it.
It's so true.
They want the help. They do. You know, unfortunately, I have had the opportunity to speak with several individuals who have had suicidal thoughts, who have had suicide attempts, and who always, you know, did little things. One individual said, you know, they took a bunch of pills and called a friend. After they took the pills, and then of course the friend called the police, and the police came, and that's how that individual was saved. But they wanted the help, they're on the verge, but they really are looking for help. And so it's important to be direct and to say, not just are you okay, but if somebody's like, are you considering killing yourself? Are you thinking about killing yourself? Do you want to kill yourself? And because a lot of times we shy away from that because we don't want to put that thought in their head. That's another myth. You're not going to put the thought in their head that's already in their head. It's there, you know. And if they weren't thinking of it, I'm like, oh heck no, I've never thought that, you know. No,
but then you'll know.
But you know. But you ask the question. And it's important to ask the question again, and you know, to recognize and have those conversations. Friend, listen, you haven't been right, girl. What's going on?
But sometimes we don't check on our strong friends.
Right.
Sometimes our strong friends are the ones calling around to ask, are you okay? I haven't heard from you. Are the ones that people don't check on. Just like CEOs of companies who do you talk to when you're all the way at the top? Who do you talk to when you're that strong? And so tonight,
or you have a lot to lose.
Or you have a lot to lose. So tonight we want to encourage you all that are tuning in order to check on your strong friends, just to say, hey, how are you doing? Like, no, not that part, but how are you doing? And leave that uncomfortable pause so that then they can talk
and fill it in.
Yeah, let them feel in that uncomfortable position. And so last week, I think it was a couple weeks ago, we had Mary Angela Abayo, who did a TEDx talk on celebrating the survivor to create a safe space around suicide. And just like you were talking about, get into that uncomfortable position, stand there in front of somebody and say, are you thinking about suicide? Your life is so important, and let me help you remember what you're bringing to this world. And so getting in there and squeezing your way into those uncomfortable positions where you're able to do that is so important. So what I've done is I have pasted Mary Angela's TEDx talk on here, where she talks about not only her brother that committed suicide, but her, who is a survivor of a suicide attempt, and those that were around her. And now the space that she's created for Faces of Fortitude, who creates the sacred space for suicide survivors. So I've never contemplated suicide, but have recognized that there have been people around me later on in life who have contemplated suicide, and I've just been shocked, because the first thing you think is, you're so strong from the outside. You look so strong from what what you're giving me, and I didn't know. And I just want to encourage you guys that Instagram, Facebook, social media, Twitter, all of these things are here. We control the narrative of what we show on our feeds.
Sure.
So I just want you to remember that. And for all the strong people that are out there, check on them. It's okay.
Right. And not just your strong friends, your quiet friends. You know, your successful friends, your pretty friends, you know, your male friends. Check on everybody, because you just never know. And check on your children.
Absolutely.
Check on your children. It's not just adolescence that they're going through. Check on them. Recognize the signs and symptoms. Learn them. I'm going to be posting signs and symptoms of mental illness and mental health disorders on my social media pages. If you want to get in touch with me, I'll share that information too.
Absolutely. So when we are back, we are going to check in on, we're going to go to break right now, and then we'll check on what's next. All right, now we're talking.
Thought you was gonna have my money today.
Man, it is what it is.
Then last week you told me your wife was cooking.
Man, it is what it is.
Then again, I don't think I want your wife cooking because you don't like it.
Well, it is what it is.
This Fly T Miles, also known as Tyree Miles, and Mr. Miles the writer.
Hip Hop K. Check us out every Friday on Be Exposed Radio. It is what it is, 9/11.
Are they ready to? I know they're not ready to accept it, but yeah, exactly. That's my whole thing. Like, how many of them are really ready to think about it like that?
None.
You know, like
I think the problem is like I don't even know how we got here, but it's inbred. You're not born to hate people. You're not born to distinguish between black and white and Asian and Hispanic. That's something that you're taught. You're taught. Point blank, period. My daughter came home and told me that her white teacher was black. Maybe it's because it's how she treated her. She don't see any color. But when it comes to all her friends, all her friends are mixed. All of her friends have a white parent, black, African, Hispanic, other parent.
So
children don't see color. You breed your children. Not breed. Right. You raise your children to see that.
Yeah, most definitely.
They don't see racism.
Well, I guess
I met a little girl who had a black doll, and she said because the black dolls are prettier than the white dolls. But then I've taken a black doll and a white doll and put it in front of two kids. And it's a study that they've done before. You put it in front of two kids, and you put it in front of a kid, and you ask them, which one is the nice one?
Man, it is what it is. Man, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is.
This fly T Miles, also known as Tyree Miles, and Mr. Miles the writer.
Hip Hop K. Check us out every Friday on Be Exposed Radio at 9/11.
Whatever happened to the times when we cared for one another? We shared the same respect. What is happening? We're trading what's important for shiny things. I can't allow this blasphemy. It's blasphemy. Why would you treat yourself like that? We didn't come this far just to fall right back. Don't lose yourself, stay on track. Baby, you're a god. Baby, you're a god. Believe that. Full of the things that we've overcome. Full of unspoken battles we've won. You're so much better than that. Sometimes the truth ain't always catchy as rap. Stop chasing cheese or you get stuck in a trap. Go get your crown and never render it back. No, it's blasphemy. Why would you treat yourself like that? Stop all that blasphemy. We didn't come this far just to fall right back. Baby, you're a god. You're a god. You're a god. You're a god. Baby, you're a god. You're a god. Baby, you're a god. Believe that. You're way too gifted to stop and listen. It's condescending, not to mention all of our ignorance.
Like the one thing you always gotta remember is people gonna try to project their insecurities onto you, but you can't listen to what them.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Hi, and welcome back to Now We're Talking. We are just having an amazing conversation tonight. So I just want to say hello to Tara, Lorraine, Quiana, India, Tanya, thank you, Michelle, Fran, Shanae, hey. And just call out you guys, people who are tuning in.
Thank you for watching, Tony and Aaron and Keisha and my bestie Michelle is on. Oh, my other bestie Keisha and Gil and Lolita. Oh, thank you guys for watching and tuning in and supporting us.
Yeah. Hey. And if you have any questions, feel free to write them. You got any people you want to call out to?
Yeah. Thank you, Shaquiqui. Thanks, Renee. Thanks, Alicia. Thanks, Kim.
She got a whole line.
Thanks, Demetria.
Hey.
Thanks, Auntie D.
Okay, Auntie D.
Hi, Auntie Diane.
Oh, yeah. So
my cousin Jerry was on it.
Oh no, I don't have the.
I'm sorry.
No, I got it before that was in. I got it before that was in. Okay.
Oh, anyway, go ahead.
Okay. So, hey, Talitha. So we have been talking about mental health. We've been talking about mental illness, and we're really trying to pull it all together on how each of us feel, and recognizing that mental health spans, right? It spans a spectrum where you could feel depression, like sad at one end, and you can feel like you're not getting out of the bed and not eating for several days. And so I didn't recognize depression. Like, I heard people say I'm depressed before, but I had never seen it until I saw it. And I had a friend, a really good friend, who came to my house, and thank God she felt comfortable in coming to my house. And obviously I created this space where she felt comfortable, but she came and she stayed for a few days with her child, and I'd never seen somebody stay in their room and just be isolated before and not really recognize all that was around them. And I remember Walker was there and I was there, and I would go in, and I'm a certified life executive coach, and I believe in affirmations. I believe in positivity. I believe in pulling together energy in a space where you are. And I was doing all of those things, and I remember just feeling like she's not ready to receive yet because she was closed. And I remember walking in the room and feeling closed and never feeling that before, and wondering to myself, how can someone, and I remember, maybe it's judging, but I remember walking in the room and feeling like, how can somebody with this much faith that I knew feel like this? And I remember feeling so helpless. And it wasn't until honestly Walker said, I smell something, seriously, that it clicked in her to say, it's been like 3 or 4 days and I haven't been out of my room. And she was downstairs, but it wasn't until that moment that she recognized, and then that I recognized, wow. And so I am just so blessed that I have the opportunity to be in that space. And so I just appreciate people relying on me and trusting me. And so as we talk about things like creating a space, how do we create that space when we don't know how, or we've never been in it? What would you say to that?
So again, one of the things that Tammy had mentioned earlier is making them feel comfortable. And a lot of times you got to give them their space, because when people are going through and dealing with mental health disorders or mental illness, or even early symptoms of it, you got to give them time to come out. Of course, create a loving and warm environment. The affirmations are good, letting them know the coping mechanisms are good as well. But many times you got to give them some space to come out of it. And one thing that you said is, that your friend came with their child. And sometimes they'll look at them like, well, you got this baby that depends on you, or you got this child
they're not
that
ready
loves
to
you, right?
receive.
And they're not open, and they know it. And that actually kind of, sometimes it makes you feel worse. And so you have to, again, like you said, create that environment for them, but you also have to give them some space to kind of deal with it, because a lot of times they won't deal with it until they're ready. With it,
but they came to a place, and I think for our listeners, what they would if that happens to you like it did to me, is I wasn't ready because I had never experienced it. But I think that hearing this is recognizing that, one, they trust you, and two, their child is there and they trust you enough to know that you're not going to allow anything negative to happen to that child while they go through this space. And I remember initially I was just trying to pull her in, like, you're better than this, and her just being like, I'm not.
Well, and that's the thing, sometimes it's hard to hear it and to see it, because you're in a dark place and you have your own thoughts that's in your mind. You're contending your mental. So you're contending with your mental and your mind and what you see. So you don't, as the individual that is struggling, you don't see yourself as being better than that, And it's almost offensive for somebody to keep telling you that, because you're like,
if I was there, I would already be there.
Exactly. If I could pull myself out, I would have.
I would have already before I got over here.
That whole snap out of it.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Don't you think if I could have snapped out of it,
I would have already done it.
Right, exactly.
So for our listeners tonight, nearly 1 in 5 American adults will deal with a mental health issue in a year. 1 in 5. So that means of the 5 of you and your cool friends, one of them is dealing with a mental issue. And sometimes if we pause enough to just sit in that moment, we would recognize that there's something different. So when we come back, we're going to jump into this topic, and we'd love to hear from you guys. So join us when we're back, and now we're talking with Quiana and Tammy and myself.
Hey.
There's a rumor going around that Tyler Perry and Oprah are beefing. Well, let me tell you about this. Tyler, okay, told Oprah, bitch, if you don't have my money, we're going to have a problem. Ooh. Oprah said, what is the problem? Ooh. You said if I don't have your money, there was going to be a problem. So Oprah is standing her ground like, bitch, I'm in charge. Yeah, you know, you may have a $250 million studio over there that you film all your shows and movies and stuff on, but I have the empire. That's what Oprah said.
Oh, these are her exact words. Allegedly.
I made this up. But
allegedly.
I made it all up. But there was a rumor that they were beefing. But Tyler confirms that they don't have any issues. So it says it was recently reported on the rumors that was swirling that the twosome were on the outs over constructive criticism over Perry's show. Well, I got some constructive criticism, and we can be on the outs, Tyler, and I don't give a damn because I'm gonna make a promo out of this anyway and share it to your page. I need the scenes on Have and Have Nots to be like 5% shorter each one. I want you to watch an episode of The Young and the Restless because this is supposed to be a soap opera. No one's dialogue on The Young and the Restless is like this. You don't have to talk about the random plant in the corner for 25 minutes on one damn scene.
They talk about random plants. It was a blood stain on the floor for 5 episodes. I can't take it. We need to kick this up. I'm sorry. I love the Have and the Have Nots, and I continue to watch it in its 5th season. But I get so mad when I can go get myself a glass of water and come back, and he had just started the next sentence in his first paragraph. I can't stand it. They just want to get the point across.
It's not but you don't get the point for 4 episodes. It's too much. So now, according to ET Online reports, Tyler Perry has a pre-cut and dried response to a pretty cut and dry response to the rumors about him and Oprah. Here's what he says. It's completely false.
What was that? That was your Tyler Perry impression? Oh, God. What?
That was my Medea voice.
Oh, gotcha.
Nothing is accurate in this article except for mine and Oprah's names. That's what he said. I mean, you see what I mean? You gotta stick around. I mean, every Tuesday at 7 p.m. I mean, they pay us to do this. So we go off every week right here on BeExposedRadio.com.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
All right. Hey, welcome back to Now We're Talking. We are so excited to have you guys. I hope you all have been listening in. We're so excited you're here. We did some shout outs the last segment, and where we ended was really tapping into mental health and where we are, and not thinking that you can solve somebody's mental health issue by just being like, oh, get over it. Mm-hmm. No. So I wanted to leave this quote with you that we found online that says, remember, mental illness is not a character flaw. Absolutely. You hear that? Mental illness is not a character flaw. Right. It is not something a person can just simply get over. It's not a person's fault. Mental health issues can be anything from dealing with a particular stressful situation to something more serious like depression or schizophrenia. So recognizing that when somebody says that they don't want to get out of bed, it's a form of depression. Recognizing that someone is not in their right mental space that you know them to be is a form of depression. Check on them. And if you can't readily bring them out of it, then suggest that they go see someone who is certified to get them out of that state. And if they don't want to go alone, it's okay for you to go with them. And so I think at the end of the day, that's what we want to leave everybody with, is recognizing that you can play a role in helping your friend or your loved one get the help that they need. And the role that you can play is not diagnosing it, but instead is helping them get the help that they need.
Bringing that support system.
Absolutely. Right, absolutely. And so one thing that I wanted to talk about, because we've talked a lot about depression in that dark place, but I think sometimes we overlook or mischaracterize anxiety. And anxiety is real. When people say, oh, I'm so stressed out, I'm about to have an anxiety attack. And, somebody will say it loosely, but anxiety is real. And that state of feeling out of control, it's a real feeling. My daughter would kill me if she heard me saying this, but I recognize that. Remember, again, we said these diagnoses in children as young as 11 years old. My daughter, who's 12, I started recognizing anxiety in her. She said it to me herself. Mom, I'm going to have an anxiety attack. My anxiety can't take this. Little things like we're doing neighborhood walks after dinner. Like, okay, let's just take a walk through the neighborhood. And she's like, Mom, we can't go too far. It's getting dark. Oh my goodness, where's the dog? Because she's feeling like she's losing control with school and schoolwork. The teacher called me one time and said, well, she got one question wrong on a test and she broke down because she didn't understand the question, and so she broke down crying because she felt like she was losing control. That sense of again, losing control, it's real for people. And to tell them, and for my daughter, first, I would say, and me being who I am trained, didn't recognize it because it was so close, which is also an important point, that sometimes we can't help the people that are closest to us. So we have to refer them out. We have to tell them, you know what, I need you to talk to someone, like you did with your son, Walker. Hey, Mr. Sir, can you come in and talk to my boy? I'm an engaged parent. I know my kid. I know what his breath smells like. But I can't figure out what's going on here. Can you come in and talk? And sometimes we have to do that. Like I said, with my family member, I had to say, hey, you know what? I think you should talk to somebody. And you can start with your internal, with your internist, the primary care physician. They have tests that they can do to check on them. But again, our kids, we gotta recognize this. So my daughter, she gets real fidgety with her hands. She's like, Mom. Okay, Mom, come on. I can't, Mom, we can't go too far. We can't, So I had to say, okay, time out, pause. She needs to see somebody. I need to take her to see somebody. And it's okay. And it's okay. Because the thing is this, early intervention, it's like with anything. Early intervention works. If you get someone, your loved one, help early, you can reverse this.
And a lot of times if you deny it, you're doing them a disservice.
And because it becomes worse. Because anxiety can go from anxiety to schizophrenia to psychosis. It can progressively get worse. So, depression can go to suicidal thoughts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hands down, because you don't want to move. Right. And so I want to leave you guys with this, is 90% of all suicides has a mental illness that plays a role. A mental illness that is not checked. 90% of the suicides. So just recognize those, and recognize that if you are struggling with mental health, to look into treatment options, because it's absolutely okay, and you are not alone. There is a space that you can go with a certified professional who is able to talk you through those things and help you work from what you're feeling. So I just want to allow each of us to talk about the space that we are within, so that you can recognize what help could look like. And it's a choice. It is absolutely a choice, and we want to give you these options that you have in order to talk to somebody who's certified. So I'll get started. I am a certified life and executive coach, and what I do is I am able to help you embrace where you are right now, no matter whatever the circumstances, no matter the strengths, the flaws, the whatever, the circumstances, the distractions that you are sitting in right now. I am certified to be able to help you to sit in those, embrace them, to act act in whatever your strengths are, to pull them out of you, and then to recognize how you can thrive in where you are right now. That's what I'm certified to be able to do. I'm certified to be able to help you with where you are in order to push you beyond where you think you want to be. What I am also certified to do is to be able to tell you, and this is what a good coach can do, is to be able to tell you that based on what I am hearing from you and based on the work that we have done together, I recognize that you need help outside of what I am capable of doing. I recognize that where you are is stuck in a place that is before where I can help you. It is stuck in a place of trauma. It is stuck in a place of I don't know what to do because of the trauma that I've dealt with before I've gotten to you. And for that, I'm able to successfully move you out of my realm. You can come back after you have recognized where you are and you have worked with a professional that's able to deal with the trauma that you've dealt with before. Then when you are ready and you have really sat in that space, I'm able to take you from that space and move you beyond where you think you ever want to be. And so that's the difference between a coach and a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a mental health professional that I am not certified to be able to do. And so when you work with a coach and they're trying to move you and move you and move you, if they're not telling you that you need somebody outside of themselves, then it's not somebody that's serving you. And so I just want you to be able to recognize those places, because a coach is here to take you from where you are to propel you to where you want to be. And I can do that, absolutely. What I want you to recognize is the coach is not here to deal with the trauma that you've had in the past that you need to delve into in order to be inside of this space. So that's really important as you go to look through coaches, right?
I agree with you. You took the words out of my mouth. I mean, you can do what you can in your space, but to be great at it, you got to recognize that this is beyond what I can help you with.
And that's a professional. That's somebody who's willing to tell you that I'm not just going to take your money and say that I'm doing something. I am going to refer you to where you need to be in order to achieve your greatness. So that's important.
And also, therapy is not one size fit all, right? So this is what I want to say this too, because somebody may reluctantly go for help and meet with someone that they just don't vibe with or they don't feel a connection with. You know what? Go to somebody else. It's not what's. I mean, it's like a relationship. You know, every guy that you go out on a date with is not going to be the man for you. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. So you go out on a date with somebody else. So the same thing with your therapist. You may not. Every therapist that you meet with may not be the first one. May not be the one for you. You know, but you can always talk to somebody else, meet with somebody else until you can find somebody that you can vibe with.
That's why consultations are here.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that's very important to remember. And again, to get help for your children and make sure that it's somebody that they vibe with. You know, listen to them. When they say, I just don't like her or I don't like him, you know, okay, well, you know, we'll find somebody else that you do like.
And go see them with your children, no matter what the age is, because you can get that same vibe that they're getting, and that is absolutely
and caregivers have support groups too. So if you're that loved one, go seek support for yourself. There are so many people in your situation, caring for others, burning themselves out, not knowing what to do day to day. You need to seek help too if you're a caregiver or a loved one.
That's well, you know that in mental health first aid, we also train individuals who are caregivers and to recognize the signs and symptoms within them, because sometimes you can develop these mental illness disorders, depression, anxiety, whatever, by the pressure and the stress that you're taking on from dealing with that. I fortunately, thank God, have not had to go through providing care for a loved one in that regard, but I can only imagine. I know so many people who do. I mean, I remember when you were going through it with your mom, just that constant day in and day out, you know, that worry. One of my good girlfriends is going through it with her dad, you know, and constantly having to be there to watch him, you know, jumping up in the middle of the night to make sure he's not trying to go out the door and changing locks and things like that. I mean, it's a very stressful situation, and so
leverage the power of your voice. I mean, I can't say that enough, is to leverage the power of your voice to talk to people about what you're going through, because you don't know what somebody else has gone through, and you also don't recognize the help that somebody else can provide or the resources they can provide for you.
You could be teaching them how to help. I remember when there were times I had to go out of town, you would go visit my mom. You know, and so it could be teaching your friend how to help their loved one when they get there at that point of view. You just don't know yet.
Absolutely. So 25% of African Americans who seek treatment for a mental health issue is compared to 40% of white counterparts who do the same. 25% versus 40%. So what we're talking about tonight is that in our communities, what we can recognize is that it's okay to seek help. Whether it's Taraji Henson that's telling us these things or anybody else who's telling us these things, what we grew up is recognizing is that we don't need to see a shrink. What happens in our house stays in our house. Don't talk about it outside of these walls. But what we're recognizing over time is that it has this lasting effect on us.
Talking about it helps. Right, talking about it helps, absolutely. But we also got to realize that the mentality is passed down. So you say what we grew up with, but that's actually still prevalent right now. You know, it is just now with these campaigns that we're seeing and it being public, it is just now starting to be forefront.
With all the celebrities committing suicide.
Exactly. With celebrities dying by suicide, then now it's become an epidemic, it's become an issue. But unfortunately, in the black community, we had people dying by suicide. I mean, I'm not even going to touch veterans. You know, the veteran population, it is so sad how many of our veterans die by suicide a day. A day. It's ridiculous. I think it's like 70 a day. There's 365 days in a year. Don't quote me on that statistic, anybody, please, for the fact checkers out there. But I'm almost close to it, and if you make me look, I will. But so that's still the mentality today, and we pass it on. You know, what happens in our house stays in our house. We don't tell our business. We can pray through it. You know, again, prayer is good. Don't get me wrong. The first lady of my church, she always says that prayer is a weapon, but therapy is a strategy. You need your weapons and you need your strategies. You know, so prayer is good, but you need that strategy. You need to have the conversation. And now I'm thankful that it is becoming mainstream, but it's sad the reason why. Because we have so many people that are dying by suicide, and we're talking about the celebrities that we know of. How about the people that don't even talk about it? Right, the people that nobody's talking about, like my friend of a friend who died by suicide 2 weeks ago. I don't even think it's been 2 weeks yet. Maybe.
At Morgan's homecoming, 3 people told me that they watched the show, and they had 3 people that they knew that just passed away from suicide.
Wow, it's unfortunate. Last month it was National Suicide Prevention Month last month, and so I posted something on social media about my own experience with suicidal thoughts and being in a very deep state of depression, and I was going through counseling and therapy at the time. And you got to remember, there's highs and lows, so you have your good days and your bad days. So
I know you and didn't know,
right? And
that's what I mean.
But because I hid it, but I did it. You know, so every day I still got up and I put my makeup on and my lips on, and I still went to church and all of that. But when I would come home and I was in that quiet, dark place by myself, then that's when the thoughts start to set in. But after I posted that, I had so many people confide in me that they also had suicidal thoughts and suicide attempts, and relationships were formed, and meetups were formed out of that, because you just never know. And so again, that, as far as spirituality is concerned, it's important for us to share our testimony, because we're all transformed by the power of our testimony. So it's important for us to share. You never know who you're going to touch. My testimony is not for me. It's to
for
save
somebody else. Absolutely.
Right. My purpose is mental health. It's not for me, it's for somebody else. There's lives that are connected to it. So, and everybody that I'm always saddened by hearing the people that Anthony Bourdain, I didn't know him. Kate Spade, didn't know him, but I wish I did, because I would have reached out and said, but now I can't squander the opportunity to reach out to the people that I know. So hey, out there, if I know you, and you're struggling and you need somebody to talk to, let's talk about it. Inbox me something, please.
Absolutely. And when we are back, we are going to give you our final thoughts on what we talked about tonight. Thank you so much for sticking in. When we're back, now we're talking.
You're like an internal bleeder. Can't see your pain, but it can silently kill ya. So deeply wounded, but don't say a thing. Too afraid of what the people may say or think. So you just sit there and you suffer in silence. Your pride won't let you just uncover your secret. Don't wanna look weak in your image, it ain't worth losing. So you just act as if it's nothing happening. God sees you, and God hears you. Yes, God loves you. You're like an internal bleeder. Can't see your pain, but it can silently kill ya. Suicidal, depressed, but you won't say a thing.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Hey, how are you? We are talking live on Now We're Talking. Thank you so much for joining in. And I just wanted to thank you guys for joining tonight. We are so appreciative. We have been talking mental health. We have been talking about the early symptoms to Alzheimer's and how that factors into mental health. We've been talking about your strong friends, the friends that don't talk. We've been talking about depression. We've been talking about suicidal thoughts. We've been talking about our loved ones, our youngsters. We've been talking about all things mental health. And so we are leaving you tonight, before we talk about how you can get in touch with each of us, we are leaving you with the acronym of life. Because life is so important. We only have this one life that we are living, and we want to make sure that we're doing it to our fullest. So the L is for love you first. Love you first. And that means getting the help that you need in order to be your best self. That could be getting a therapist. That can be getting a counselor. That can be getting a therapist. That can be getting a coach. That can be getting whoever you need in order to progress you forward. I is for investing in yourself. Invest in yourself so that you have moments to sit, to pause, and really just nourish yourselves. Whether it's a retreat, by the way, I'm doing one February 20th through 23rd, or it's church, or it's exercise, pausing, taking a walk, talking to a friend, having a glass of wine, whatever that is, massage, right, we got a lot of them. So whether it is using our checklist, but something to really have you pause and just nourish yourself. We give so much to everyone else that we just need to definitely nourish ourselves so that we can be able to give back fully and wholly. The F is for factor in others. Like, think about others in your daily walk. Is it your strong friend? Is it the one that's not talking to somebody? Who is looking differently, feeling differently than what you know? Tap into them. Ask them, are you okay? And really mean it. Don't be like, hey, how you doing? And keep on walking up. Like, how are you really feeling?
Yeah, exactly. The open-ended question. Yeah. Right. The open-ended question. How are you feeling? You know, to elicit a response.
And sit there in silence as they feel uncomfortable, because that's what you're pulling out.
What's going on? That's another one. What's going on? Because you're telling them, I recognize something's not right.
Yeah, and so tell them something's not right. Like, you feel off. What is it?
Right. What's going on?
And I'm lucky to have, I think I have 3 people in my life who really, really do that on a regular basis for me. And I don't think it's all your friends. It's like people who are, I can like name them. There's 3 people in my life who really check on me to say, like, I I saw you on TV. How are you for real? And really mean it. And that's so important. So do that. That's the F, factor in others. And the E is experience the greatness of today. Like today is a moment in time that you'll never get back. Experience it fully every day. And I tell this audience all the time is write down your small win. What is it that you won with today? I do it with my 7-year-old son every day. My mother, my grandmother, when she's here to visit, what is your win for today? If you say, I don't think I had one, well, we got all the damn time in the world. Well, we'll wait while you think about it.
Because it's something. You got to find the win. Just the fact that we woke up this morning.
Absolutely.
That's a win. You know, and woke up, and as they say, the old folks say, in your right mind. You woke up in your right mind.
You know who I am? Well, hello.
Listen. That's
yes, I'm still here too, honey. Yep. So the point is that think about those moments. So we leave you with LIFE for life, and to recognize that this is the life that you're living and to make the fullest of it. So we talked about mental health, and we hope that you've taken away some nuggets from tonight. So we're going to go around the table. We're going to go 1, 2, and 3 to talk to you about one more time who we are and how you can stay in touch.
Okay, so Quiana Roberts, and I am a certified mental health first aid instructor for youth, that is individuals who work with youth as well as adults, and I'll actually be trained in youth mental health first aid soon, meaning youth identifying signs and symptoms of mental illness in other youth, and to provide trainings for that. What I do is I offer training primarily in the school systems, where I'm training teachers, faculty, and staff on the signs and symptoms of mental health first aid, signs and symptoms of mental illness in young people, young adults, youth, ages about 11, so middle school through high school, and then also with different organizations and community groups for adults in church. Sorry, how can I forget that? My first lady would kill me. And in the church environment, recognizing. So I train the congregants and the staff and members of the church, so when they're interacting with the congregants, they know to recognize the signs and symptoms. Again, that's what it's always about, you know. And I'll talk to anybody that has an ear that wants to listen, because it's really, really important. A lot of times, we don't say anything because we don't know. We don't catch it because we don't know. You know, it's not obvious. It's not glaring. You know, if it's not a gunshot wound, we don't know that somebody's bleeding. You know, if it's not a stab wound, that we don't know if somebody's bleeding. So we got to recognize the subtleties, you know, the internal bleed outs, if you will. And so I'll talk to anybody that wants to listen, but I do offer formal trainings. And how can you reach me? Oh, you can email me at sparrowrehabservices@gmail.com. That's SPARROW rehab REHAB services with an S @gmail.com, and we can set something up. If you have questions, you just want to talk, we can do that as well.
Awesome. Tammy?
And again, I'm a physical therapist by trade. I am a certified dementia specialist. Really what I would like to do for the community is, if you have any questions on Alzheimer's related issues, if you're dealing with somebody who has Alzheimer's and you just need some resources, you need somewhere to go, you know nothing about it, you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is tigerw17@aol.com. It's very important to get help very early on. It can be manageable, and you are not alone.
I love it. And so, as I mentioned before, I'm a certified life and executive coach. I'm also an author of The Intersection of You and Change. But what I do is I speak and I teach and I empower women and teams in order to pause where you are and to really set in motion, embrace, act, and thrive. So embrace where you are, act in your strengths, and then thrive in your greatness. And I'm very good and certified in pulling that out of you so that we can start where you are and then push you beyond where you want to be. And so again, we left you with LIFE. If you didn't hear it before, you got to rewind the tape and make sure you watch it again. And a reminder that there's so many different therapies that you can engage in. There's art therapy, there's dramology that we've had on here before, there is traditional therapy, right? There is coaching, there's healing, there's energy, there's crystals, there's so many different formats that you can go to. So I encourage you, you can definitely feel free to reach out to me at lolitawalker.com. Mervin, who is not here tonight, is at mervinborn.com. He has a men's retreat that's coming up November 16th weekend. I have a women's retreat that's coming up February 20th weekend, and we have so many different things that's coming up in the meantime. So please just keep in touch, and we appreciate you being here. We'll see you again next week. Now we're talking. Thank you.
Take a minute and listen to this flashback of the Artist Exchange radio show.
Any trouble, because I get into any trouble, but I had a problem that this then became a discussion at that workplace environment.